Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the OCTO Smart Talks 2020 series of webinar. I'm Giuseppe Lucido, and I'm Vice President at Edelman, an international PR firm who's been working with OCTO several years now. I'm really glad to be hosting this webinar today and be welcomed into a company who, in its 18 years of life, has created a new market and has kept innovating since day one. OCTO developed the Smart Talks formula as a dynamic, swift way to stay in contact and communicate with its audience, introduce the latest products and solutions, addressing the issues at the heart of the company itself, meaning technologies, mobility, innovation, just to scratch the surface, within the historical framework we are living in. The COVID pandemic has changed our lives, and changes will keep coming in months to come. In Italy, the almost 3 months of lockdown allowed us as individuals, but I think also as a country, to fully understand the relevance of digitalization for both the personal and professional sides of our lives. Thanks to digital technologies, we managed to stay in contact with the world outside our homes, somehow overcoming the confinement due to the need to stop the spreading of the virus, which was the issue number one. Most of us were able to comparatively stay on track, thanks to smart working, or remote working, if you will, massively adopted in no time, contrary to what usually happens in a country, to allow some of us not to stop. OCTO was certainly one of the companies who didn't stop innovating. The company decided to put its expertise and technologies in making smart data actionable, in creating IT solutions, in supporting fleet management, etc., putting it at work to create solutions able to answer the need of this new normal that's beginning to take shape, since we are now in the phase 2 of the so-called coronavirus crisis. It won't be easy. We are all aware that it won't be easy. There will be more rules to comply to get accustomed to. And we're all seeing from the news of people crowding the streets and staying too close to each other how difficult it is. The pandemic, though, also helped us uncover the best in us, allowed us to get back to our roots, reconnect with our value, practice respect towards our next of kin. Somehow it united us and spurred us to do more and do it in the best possible way. Today, OCTO introduces 2 solutions designed to answer 2 major needs of the second phase of the pandemic: social distancing, or personal distancing if you like, and shared vehicle sanitation. For both solutions, the keyword is safety. Introducing today the framework of OCTO's initiatives to fight the spreading of COVID-19, as well as the 2 brand new solutions I just mentioned, will be Cosimo Rocca, Product Management Advisor, OCTO, and Paolo Cellini, Vice President, Product Innovation. Cosimo, Paolo, welcome to both of you. The stage is yours.
Hello.
Let's get to know the solution better. Starting from Paolo.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to have the smart talks about the product we are going to launch in the next weeks or month, and the opportunity also to discuss about the situation all overall. As a general statement, I would say we are facing a new situation where digital technologies are empowering and strongly enabling us to change our life. This has always been the case, at least since the introduction 10 years ago of mobile smartphone. That is the most important technology introduced, I would say, ever. With 1.5 billion smartphones sold every year and almost 4 billion smartphones as an installed base worldwide, no other consumer technology has never reached this kind of adoption. And without any training, all of us are enabled every other day to do everything. One of the key things we have been strongly enabled to do is to do things remotely instead of being present. And that is changing our life, the way we live, the way we do payment, the way we work, the way we study, and even we socially interact at a certain level. Of course, this is demonstration that digital technology is there, and now, given the fact that we have been obliged to use it just for our everyday living, we have been entering in a kind of a giant social experiment that has been forcing us to use these technologies that were already there. Nothing that we are using nowadays was not available, but there is a lot of question about it was the right things to do distance learning, to do distant remote working and things like this has been totally overcome by the situation itself. So in OCTO, coming to the more specific situation, so essentially speaking, now we do things remotely that in the past we were obliged of thinking we were to do in presence. And this is particularly true for here in Italy, where people think that a lot of things are needed to do in presence. And it's been demonstrated that there is another way to do this kind of thing. In particular, in OCTO, we have been working on different products, and a couple of products we'll talk later, Cosimo, that has been heading the project, and one in particular I've been managing one of them. It's a kind of product for journalists, news, general population, where we introduce our capability to collect tons of data, because OCTO at the end of the game is a real Internet of Things company, where we put all the sensors in cars, vehicles, and things like this, and we collect continuously data from these moving objects. And because of this, and because we have all this flow of data coming to us in an automatic way, and we, of course, accumulate this data, and we are able to analyze in real time, we have been in literally in 1 week, we have been able to create a site, an internet site, where everybody could access the data and understand the difference between mobility, that means, essentially speaking, how many cars and trucks has been going around in the country, in Italy, before the virus and after the virus. So we have been analyzing this with some segment between passenger cars, that are the cars that normally we use every day with our family, and the trucks, that are the things that normally are used in logistics to carry heavy loads. The results has been astonishing. Has been real lockdown, because the traffic has been going down by huge numbers. We have been arriving even to 80%. The good things that if you go on this site, the address is lab.autotelematics.com, that we have been integrating our data with the data coming from InfoBlue, that is an Italian autostrada company. We have some stakes. We have more or less 15% of the company. We have been putting together. We have been fusioning the two sources of data, and you can understand how things are. For example, now recovery. You can see easily that weeks after weeks, I wouldn't say day after days, but things are going back. I wouldn't say to normal, but the traffic is increasing. So this is a small demonstration of our analytics capability, and also our capability to, how to say, reuse of the same kind of data for different targets. So, of course, if you would like to have much more sophisticated data analysis, we need different approach. And of course, we can have a kind of granularity that is much more important, as we did for some insurance company and fleet management company, where you need a huge computing capability and analytics, sophisticated and statistics tools. But as a demonstration how we can manage our data and analyze if there is traffic around regions, cross regions, or across town or in town, for us it's very simple. We can do triple in a matter of days. Thank you.
Can we say, Paolo, that the solution, the Mobility Data Lab, has huge potentials in terms of understanding what happens in our roads, how the traffic is managed, how it can be improved? Can it be an anticipation of future things to develop?
Yeah, we have been proposing for different towns or different cities around Europe, how to plan the traffic, for example. Even though we can arrive to the granularity to analyze the situation and on a single street or a single quarter or a single small town, or where the people are coming from at a certain hour. So we can make this kind of what is called a matrix of origination destination almost in real time, and give a lot of powerful tools to what is called the smart cities.
Right.
We
That's what I was
provide smarter data for smart cities, essentially speaking.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking, that these tools can be one of the enablers of what will be the future of cities in terms of being smart, actually, once we have the actual grids to call a city smart. Thank you very much, Paolo. Now up
Thank
to...
you.
Okay. Thank you for the floor, Giuseppe. I missed you. Okay, and thank you to our public. Now, I would like to tell you something about these two systems, these two products, OCTO Around Me and OCTO PurePlace, respectively, that, as Giuseppe mentioned before, is being developed having in mind the control of social distancing and the control of one environment that is becoming absolutely key in this COVID time, the car. The car is our new shell. There are a lot of things now that are done with the car, so it's important to have a tight control of the healthy status of the relevant environment. I have to tell you that when our executive management asked us to our engineering to exploit systems with a real big social value, and our thinking went immediately to these two verticals, okay? Because we were able to exploit our experience in Bluetooth networking and sophisticated integration of complex onboard systems. Now, about OCTO Around Me, let's begin from the magic tags, okay? The concept is quite simple. Before looking at the details, let me stress that one of the paradigm we used in the design is for sure being reliable, for sure being safe, but it has also to be simple, seamless as much as possible in the use by the final customer, without technological barriers, and this is important as well. So many systems in the basic level are implemented smartphone based. We have thought to something that is smartphone aided, but not necessarily smartphone based. So the system itself is able to work in a basic way by simply wearing the tag. The tag is a very small parallelepiped of 2 centimeters side, very, very small. No need to be recharged. There is no rechargeable battery. It is self-powered, long-lasting, and this is possible because we exploited a lot of experience we gained in inertial systems. So we detect the motion and we can optimize the energy consumed by the tags.
So Cosimo, it's also sustainable then.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's not bad in times in which
we can tell it without any doubt. The concept is simple. As soon as the two tags are at a distance that is beyond the recommendation of the authorities for the place, and at least here in Italy, but generally speaking in Europe, this distance is identified to be about a couple of meters, 1.5 meters, then a contact event is raised, and the event is stored inside the tag memory. Then, when the tag is rendered back to the central station where the final customer got it, the events are downloaded, stored on the cloud, and available for any future use. Now, let's enter into some detail. One could say, sorry, immediately, well, but there is no indication, acoustic, optical. Yes, there is, if the customer has a smartphone and accepts to pair the tag with the smartphone. So we conceive a very basic use case without a need of a specific acoustical and visual indication that is damn useful for the owner of the place under control, because she can demonstrate to himself, herself, or to the authorities that all the precautions necessary to put in place a good, healthy handling of the environment have been put in place. Okay, so the basic case is let's store the event. The immediate following case is okay. The user has a smartphone and he accepts to download the app and to pair the smartphone with the app. Well, in this case, there is also the possibility of having visual and acoustical indication. Then there is a third step. The user, the final user, beyond downloading the app, accepts also to render available certain ID data, in particular one datum, the ID of the smartphone. In this case, the system is able to store coupled to the event also the smartphone ID. And this could be in principle quite useful when recovering from the cloud the data. I am referring now to the owner of the place, and being able to reconstruct, in case of contagion, a certain history of contacts. But again, this is optional, and this is true only if the final customer accepts to render available this data. Okay, so if one goes to the use case, okay, I forgot at the beginning to stress one important point. The typical use cases can be or in a public site under control, for example, a mall, a commercial center, and shops, big shops, okay? Or inside an office, okay? Inside the commercial shop, you cannot start from the presuppose that any final customer is the smartphone, and anybody wants to use the smartphone and or wants to give private information. So the scaling up of the use cases that I mentioned before are all applicable. So you get the tag at the entrance, you put the tag in the pocket, you are solicited if you have the smartphone to download the app, you decide what you want to do, but at the end, the bare minimum that the history of your contacts are registered in the tag and they are downloaded to the central station, central app that at the end is a tablet with a web app, nothing more, okay? When you give back the tag at the exit of the shop. Okay, so this is the use case in the public site. In the private site, the history can be a bit different because the tag, that again is a very small, sealed, it's quite a small piece of hardware, but dense of technology inside, okay? And then the tag becomes the best friend of your badge. So if the badge is used in the office to control the accesses to the place, then the tag is used to control the social distancing between the employees or between the employees and the visitors, okay? That's about Around Me. Again, I don't want to bore you too much about the facilities that are by default required in a system like that. So you can imagine, for example, that you have to handle white lists. For example, when a family enter into a shop, father, mother, sons, they have any right of staying one beside the other without raising any alarm. Okay, this is handled with white lists. At the same time, there is the wool of the reporting capability you can imagine at level of supervisor of the system. Okay. Then let's go.
Cosimo, just before we move to PurePlace,
Yes, please.
May I ask you, in terms of the relationship of the user to the solution. What's the main reason why I should accept? I mean, it's pretty obvious for me in the sense that I can understand that it is something useful that I can use, but for not for the store or for the managers of the store, because it is clear, but for the people using it, what's the main advantage?
Okay, there are different levels that are appropriate for any level of operation that I described. The first level undoubtedly is a level that is oriented towards the environment handling. So it's a matter of social responsibility. I have to say that going around, at least in our context, we are seeing a lot of social responsibility, and I suppose that this is absolutely the same all over the world. This is transversal. So on the other end, the level of invasivity of the solution is so low. You are asked to put in your pocket a small cube like that. Okay, so everybody, we suppose, is keen to adhere to the service proposal. Then, from the second level on, if one is beyond the technological barrier of the smartphone and is a little bit more digital between hyphens, then there is a strong advantage, well perceivable for the person. So, first of all, you are advised of a strange situation. One could say, okay, I look with my eyes, but this is not always true, because the distraction is always behind our shoulders, okay? So it is definitely useful, and the people perceive it, no doubt. Then if you accept oh, by the way, in this working mode, I forgot to tell it before, you have also the documentation for yourself inside the app for your private use of what happened inside the shop, how many contacts you had. Of course, you don't know who is behind any contact, but for sure you know that going in the mall there were 10 10 neighborhoods or things like that. With the third level, then the advantage, the impact is quite high. But of course, this is reserved to the person that have no reservation in giving access to a personal datum that is the ID of the phone, because the ID of the phone at the very end is just the ID of the person, okay? So in these three levels, we are quite confident, also based on the discussions that we have in preparing the product profile, that the system will be adopted without too many problems, and for sure for the not digital people without any perceivable impact in the use. Okay,
great, easy to use. So perfect. Let's move from the mall and let's go to our car.
Let's go out from the mall and let's enter into the car. Okay, the concept inside the car is quite simple and is based, on the other end, on stable technology. The issue here has been to choose the proper one, the proper technology for sanitification of the car environment, because there are requisites, there are requirements. First of all, in order to set up a good use case, the system has to be definitely harmless. So it has to be used on trip while the driver is driving and the passengers are in. Please do not forget that the use case has been conceived mainly for the car sharing vertical and the short-term vertical, verticals in which OCTO is quite active. So the use case at the very end is quite evident when at the beginning of the renting cycle, when the final customer approaches the car and with the app opens the car, she has a clear indication, a green light that the car is in a healthy status. It means that a certain sanitification cycle has been completed from the time of the preceding rental. Okay, it means a control. So a sanitizer, a purifier itself standard is not enough, but it has to be a purifier under control of the telematics device in order to control the time of actuation and the way forward of the cycle. Coming back to the technology that is the key, you have to discard by definition the chemical methods. Okay, you cannot spray chemicals after each rental cycle.
Not fair.
One has to discard as well the ozone saturation because unfortunately in high concentrations the ozone is harmful for a lot of people, so one has one cannot use it. Okay.
Okay.
And the final choice is by election, one that, by the way, is inherited from space, is inherited from a patent released in the public domain from NASA and the space agency, the US Space Agency, and it is called photocatalytic oxidation. Photocatalytic oxidation has a lot of nice things to say. Because first of all, is definitely harmless. Second, it is active on surfaces, not only in the air of the car, but also on surfaces. Okay, it is stable a long time, providing that it is implemented with the right components, and can be easily composed with ancillary methods that perfect the level of sanitification, for example, oral ions or things like that. The only issue is that you have to control in a tight way the time of application of the methods, and this is the purpose of the telematics device. So an efficient state-of-the-art purifier based on photocatalytic oxidation under tight control of the telematics device, the same telematics device that is used to implement the onboard functionalities for car sharing or short-term rental. Okay, this is the concept. At the end is very simple. Very quickly, in terms of promise to the market, nobody of us, of course, can certify the effectiveness of this purification method on COVID-19, because simply the labs around have not time enough now to perform testing on this brand new virus. Okay, but we have evidence by the medical biological community of the effectiveness of photocatalytic oxidation on similar viruses, for example, MERS, for example, H1N1, virus corona, that are absolutely of the same race of the COVID-19. So one has to be clear about that. Okay. About the use case, we said, and I don't think it's necessary to insist, I am seeing that the time is elapsing and I have to hurry up. Let me go to the last point. The last point is the possibility of using this method of a pure car environment on public fleets as well, and we have in mind, namely, the taxi cabs. Okay, taxi cabs are the classical example where you have again a customer, you have a rental cycle that is quite short, okay, and you have a vehicle with the need of giving evidence to the next renting person that the environment is healthy. Okay. How implementing it? Okay, by installing the onboard system on board of the taxi, and by exploiting APIs in our platform in order to let the reservation app for that fleet of taxi of the universal reservation app able to get the status of that particular car. So the next time Cosimo is renting a taxi, a trip on a taxi, he has the evidence by the reservation. Okay, the car is okay. Well, that's all, I think, because the time unfortunately elapsed too fast.
Yes, we have just a few minutes, and I just would like to wrap up what we have seen today. And just one thing I would like to point out, which seems interesting. This is also a solution, which in a way is a sustainable again. I mean, we are again in the area of sustainability because there is now
No
a
doubt.
need to access these cars while feeling safe. So if your car is sanitized, it's perfectly healthy, it will of course have an effect on the mobility in cities, which now, for example, are starting to be quite crowded because cars are back, and with cars, pollution is back. So it seems interesting that it also can contribute somehow to the sustainability issue in cities. Okay, thank you very much. Time is running out, as we were saying. There are some questions. I'll try to wrap up. Don't think we will have time to address them all, but we will surely answer later. These are strange times, as we said, and are also times that offers opportunity to make the best out of a crisis. I'm going to quote Rahm Emanuel, which was Barack Obama's chief of staff in 2008, when the world was at the height of the financial crisis, and we all thought it was going to be the last and most severe crisis we were going to experience. How ingenious we were. He said, "You never want a serious crisis to go to waste." What he meant by that is that a crisis is an opportunity to do things you think could not do before. Things that OCTO is doing, it has been doing since it started 18 years ago, is now giving more products, proving that it can innovate in different areas. And I think it will be a great chance and an interesting chance to make this new normal that you're now facing better, if possible, for sure, more safe and secure than it is today. Thanks again for your time, for staying with us today. Thanks to Cosimo and Paolo for introducing us OCTO Around Me and OCTO PurePlace. Just a couple of things for the next Smart Talks. There will be one on June the 4th. It will focus on artificial intelligence is changing accident management. Moving forward, the Smart Talks 2020 will cover the rise of the smart future and IoT and big data. Cosimo, Paolo, thanks again for your time. Thanks to
Many thanks to you.
Bye for now. Bye.
Bye to everybody.